You're listening to SBS News.
On a property in Sydney's outskirts, Manu and her team of volunteers are busy harvesting organic vegetables.
It's winter, so we're growing all the winter veg, broccoli, cauliflower, cavallonero, and got some radishes. We can grow snow peas and snap peas under our hoot tunnel, and we grow different lettuces because the weather in the mid-mountains is still quite temperate.
The work is being done through Miss Prigioni's social enterprise, Farm It Forward, which started 4 years ago. Since then, volunteers have cultivated 26 tonnes of vegetables from local backyards. And Miss Prigioni says the project does more than supply healthy foods to locals.
The landowners who are part of our program were selected because they are in categories at risk of social isolation in the mountains. So young families with children, older retired residents.
Miss Prigioni knows firsthand about the impact loneliness can have. After growing up in Italy, she migrated to Australia, aged 19, and says moving to the small semi-rural community an hour west of Sydney came as a shock.
I had a really hard time when I first moved to the mountains, and I was very socially isolated for sure. I had a pretty strong episode of postnatal depression. My clinical psychologist who was following me happened to be a really amazing gardener.
That led to a new passion for permaculture. Eventually, Miss Prigioni came up with a way to connect people experiencing isolation by cultivating underutilised land.
Farm It Forward is a social enterprise that connects a team of young people to people with unused private land, and our team of young people turn this unused land into regenerative market gardens.
Volunteers now work 8 different plots in the mountains. Miss Prigioni says bringing people together to garden helps to break down barriers.
The people who come are of vastly different ages and cultural backgrounds and genders, and it's just a brilliant way to connect people socially around food growing.
Retired nurse Sylvia May was among the first to benefit from the project. The 79-year-old says advancing age and mobility issues meant she was no longer able to garden.
Because I'm on a big bush block and I was past retirement, most of my friends were downsizing, and I thought I'd rather stay on my bush block, but I'll need help. Having people around, having a vegetable garden on site where I haven't had to do the work myself is the most amazing luxury.
In return for using her land, volunteers give Miss May free food. She also looks forward to weekly visits from the diverse team.
My social life without Farm It Forward would be more people my own age, so it is lovely to mix with people of different ages. And even though I walk with a walking stick, I don't feel old, and so just mixing with people of different ages helps me just feel like myself, not an old person.
Bringing cultures and generations together has other benefits too. According to Beyond Blue's lead clinical advisor, Dr. Grant Blaschke, community projects like this may help to extend or even save lives.
The studies tell us that loneliness is associated with a 30% rise in heart disease and a 30% rise in strokes and an overall increase in premature death that's right up there with smoking and obesity and physical inactivity. So we think it's a really legitimate and important public health issue.
Dr. Blaschke says with many Australians living longer, social isolation has become a prominent issue, and that's driving a new health trend.
Doctors are being encouraged to provide what are called social prescriptions or social prescribing, where actually I write it down on a piece of paper like a script and say, it would be great for you to join this community group.
Dr. Rosanne Freak-Poli is a life course epidemiologist from Monash University and says while projects like this help to connect people, some of those most isolated are reluctant to reach out.
the biggest barrier is actually putting yourself out there and talking to new people. Unfortunately, we do have to do it throughout our lives. The research shows that every 7 years, our friendships groups do change because we change, but also our friends change. And it's just important to keep that in mind. It's something that we have to keep up throughout our lives.
Farm It Forward volunteers supply fresh food to the local community and are able to take home part of what they grow. Rafida is a volunteer cook who turns unsold produce into healthy and affordable meals.
For me, cooking is my way of sharing with the community, and I love it. As you look around, a lot of people are unwell, and there has been a lot of challenges for a lot of people from last 2.5 years since COVID. But nourishment is about really looking within your soul.
As living costs continue to rise, Dr. Blaschke says the benefits of projects like Farm It Forward extend well beyond the local community.
We are in the midst of a societal transformation where we're trying to deal with some really urgent environmental issues. And part of that solution is going to be growing and consuming local food. So not everything needs to be bought from the other side of the world and flown over on a plane or brought over on a ship. So, there's a confluence of mental health, environmental, social capital agendas that I think really make these sort of projects most worthwhile.
Ms Prigioni has already inspired growers in Queensland, Victoria and Tasmania to start their own garden projects, and she hopes many others will follow.
I'd like to see a Farm It Forward type initiative in each local area, if not in each suburb. Seriously, it's incredible in terms of nipping issues in the bud to do with public health, and it's strong in its small and meaningful scale. So lots and lots of small and meaningful makes really, really powerful change.
Sophie Bennett, SBS News.